It's Eric again at Vicbaggers.com. Today I want to talk about our bolt-on 26 kits for 111 cubic inch Indian motorcycles from 2014 to 2018 currently. Let's talk a little bit about these. For all machined in-house, USA made, machined from billet aluminum, made here in Francisco, Indiana. Here at the end we've got one that's in raw form that has yet to be finished out with powder coat, no bearings pressed in or anything like that. You can see the quality of this unit. Going to provide strength and durability that will outlast your motorcycle for sure. So with each one of the kits comes a general hardware. The long center bolt here, the main shaft is for the extended neck. 2 flathead bolts up here are for your handlebar risers. 10 clamp bolts for the trees, and 4 alignment pins. With the non-fairing models, you'll receive a piece that looks like this, and we'll tell you how to install that here. So the extended neck piece is 3 pieces. There's a lower section that does not have threads in it. It does have a bearing race already pressed in. It does have a counter bore hole for the large socket head cap screw. You have your center portion of your neck piece, also has holes for the alignment pins. There's a top and a bottom of that. And then you have your top piece of the extended neck, which does have a threaded hole, and it has a has a nice sealed bearing in the top of it. So for non-fairing models, basically this additional spacer will just sit inside of here and just sit down in there. And that is all there is to that. As far as the trees go, the trees are uniform to each model, fairing or non-fairing. For the factory non-fairing bikes, all of your clamp bolts will face away from the gas tank. So this top tree can be rotated around for non-fairing models. For this specific illustration here, all of the bolts, top and bottom, are facing away from the gas tank. Now let's talk about fairing, factory fairing models. At that point we'll rotate the tree 180 degrees here. So now the top clamp bolts are facing to the tank. The bottom tree remains the same. It's unchanged. With the factory fairing bikes you'll receive some additional hardware. We have our lower bracket for the fairing, our upper bracket for the fairing, some spacers, some washers, and we'll show you kind of how this goes together. There's a couple different setups. These additional mounting pieces will allow you to adjust the fairing height if you need to. So if your fairing does not need to be adjusted higher for whatever reason, depending on air ride situations, how low you've actually got the setting on it, if you're not running air ride, you probably won't need to raise the fairing at all. So it has some adjustability to it. So let's say you want your fairing in the stock position, you want it as low as you can get it. So basically you've got 2 button head bolts that come with it. There's nuts on the back. You've got this lower bracket here, and the bolts will go in the bottom. One of these 4 bolts here, 2 of these here in the bottom. On the top piece, if you're going to keep it as low as it'll go, you'll get 2 spacers here, and you'll take the threaded studs and thread into each top piece. So that means you're going to have hardware left over that will be unused. So these pieces will be unused if your fairing is in the lowest position. Once the fairing is installed, a washer goes over top of the fairing with a lock nut and gets tightened down. Now let's say you want to adjust your fairing up a little higher to give some additional fairing clearance from the fender and the tire. The bottom mounts in the same way with the button head and lock nuts. You're going to place one of your 4 bolts up here on the top section, or maybe the middle, depending on your application. Fairing would go in place, and then washer and lock nut. Now the same would hold true on the top. Now you're going to use the hardware here that you didn't use before. You'll use a bolt like this. We'll go down through the spacer, mounting this section to the tree, and you'll be the same hole position as you have on your lower piece, and you'll use one of the 4 bolts that was supplied with the kit. Fairing goes on, washer and nut, leaving the leftover hardware to be